Hello. Hi, can you hear me? Can you see me? Can you hear me? The computer today is acting out so weird. How are you doing? How is everyone doing? Hello. Can can people hear me? Tell me in comments if I sound okay. Very strange. Let me check this out. Oh, there we go. Okay. My screen is looking okay. All right. That was really weird. All of a sudden, it started to act out. How are you doing? Let me know in comments how your week has been. After last week of going through the Montessori Way Foundation's workshop, wow, what a whirlwind of learning and growing and flourishing and getting to know each other and delving deep into the Montessori philosophy. I am so excited that we had so many people go through it. Over 300 people signed up to go through the Montessori Way Foundation's workshop. And it was a free 5-day workshop that went every single day, 5 days in a row. Hello, Danielle. How are you? And it was so great. It was amazing. It was energizing to me. I'm an introvert, so usually after I do these kinds of things, I'm drained. But actually, talking about Montessori empowers me and energizes me. And I love talking about it and sharing what I know, my 15 years of experience with you. So obviously, the workshop was a drop in the bucket compared to the Montessori Way Foundation's framework, which is the 6-month program that I created to help people go on their way, on their Montessori journey from nothing to amazing. And it doesn't matter where you are. If you are brand new to Montessori, it is for you. And if you have been doing Montessori for a while, it is for you too, because it will take you through the foundations of the philosophy, and it's going to renew that passion, renew that love that you have for Montessori. So we had 20 wonderful people sign up to enroll in the Montessori Way Foundation's framework. I want to invite you, if you want to join the wait list, you can go there and join the wait list for whenever it's going to open again. I will let you know for sure if you go and join the wait list. I will tell you immediately as soon as open enrollment will happen. It will be next year though, so just know that we're going through the workshop again, but next year in 2021. The holidays are coming up. It's already November anyway. So we're just going to start the year right. I might do it early in the year, and it's super exciting. But today's topic is going to be really great too. Let me just do a couple of things, a couple of announcements. So the one is this one. If you want to join the framework waitlist, go ahead and go to that link, and I can also type it up in the comments if that is easier for you to just click and go. Let me put it in real fast. And then I also want to invite you to a couple of groups, because if you are a homeschooler, I want you to join the Facebook group called the Natural Homeschool Community, where we talk all things homeschool, not just Montessori, but including Montessori. And then if you want to do just Montessori, you're not necessarily homeschooling, then you can join the Montessori Way Prep Room. It's another Facebook group that I have that is great for growing, flourishing, and just getting more information about the Montessori philosophy altogether, as well as, the announcement whenever the workshop is coming up again and things like that. So be sure and join those two groups if they are a good fit for you. All right. So now that we have gotten the announcements out of the way, let's get started. Hey there, this is Tanya Wright from thenaturalhomeschool.com, the place for homeschool and Montessori lovers ready to make themselves centered, organized teachers, nurture happy children, and create smooth and successful days. Let's get you closer to your transformation today. Welcome. All right, we're back. Did that sound a little choppy to you? Because it did to me. I don't know if it's a little different on your end than mine, but I just want to make sure that it's all looking good. Today's topic is very important. I know that it is our human tendency to try to avoid the negatives. I know. It is very important, though, that we understand that negatives are inevitable. We try to avoid them, of course, but they're not always going to be not happening to us. It's just going to happen. It's life, right? I want us to shift our thinking from seeing negatives as only affecting us in a bad way, because negatives can actually be a good thing for us. And how can that be, especially with children? Well, number one, the negatives help us learn. They help us overcome our fears. If we always thought of everything in life as being negative and avoiding it, then we wouldn't do anything. We wouldn't learn to cook, because what if I cut myself? Or what if I burn myself? We would never learn to ride bikes, because what if I fall off and hurt myself? Or we would never learn to drive cars. We would never have children, because, giving birth is a big deal. What if we have a medical emergency or something? So negatives are driven by fear. But what I want you to understand is that even though negatives are inevitable, we can overcome that fear, and we can see negatives in a different way. So today's talk is going to be about that, overcoming negatives in Montessori. We can apply this to many topics in our life, especially right now. But I want us to focus on Montessori because that is what this show is about. Let's get started with our first slide. Some of you are thinking, okay, you're following the Montessori curriculum, ages 3 to 6, but have some issues with your Montessori environment. Or is a particular Montessori work discouraging you from using it or setting it up in your Montessori environment? In this episode, we're going to talk about some of the limiting beliefs and discouraging thoughts that you might have that might be keeping you from moving forward in your Montessori journey. So if you are looking to building a centered, organized Montessori guide in yourself, nurture happy, normalized children, and want to create smooth, successful Montessori days, then you are in the right place. Let me know in comments what you know about this topic. If you have any personal negatives in the Montessori environment, what is keeping you from moving forward? All right. Number one, let me get you this slide. There it is. Montessori materials are so beautiful, but they can be very expensive. I understand. The money issue can be a big one. when it comes to Montessori because the materials really do add up, right? Maybe your Montessori homeschool um, kindergarten is out of control and completely lacking important and essential materials because you can't afford some of the works, or you are lost in terms of knowing what to get, what to buy, right? Your homeschooling days or Montessori schools are supposed to be filled with wonderful Montessori activities, but you don't know what to get. So that is keeping you from moving forward. Montessori and homeschooling curriculum is already pricey. Imagine thinking about wasting money ordering something that the children aren't ready for yet. Your Montessori inspired environment should definitely have original Montessori materials, such as the ones that you see that are made out of wood, that have very specific purposes. But the price can definitely add up. There are several ways to target this, though. You can see it as a negative, or you can see it as an opportunity. See it as an opportunity to get creative. One of the ways is to follow the children you serve to determine their sensitive periods. You can also use the do-it-yourself and the printable materials that will save you time and money. Just remember to be very strategic and intentional in what you're going to be getting. I have a client in the Montessori Way Foundation's framework that lives in a country where they do not sell and they do not ship original Montessori materials. And you know what? She's going through the framework and she's making it work because we work together to come up with ideas on how she can make the materials. And her children are learning, they are thriving, and they are happy. They are loving learning, they're passionate. So, one negative doesn't have to be something that will deter you, it might even embolden you. Say, oh, yeah, well, if I can't afford it, I'm going to find a way to make it work. Maria Montessori said, the child, making use of all that he finds around him, shapes himself for the future. So I want to encourage you to get original Montessori materials, but I don't want you to think that that is the one and only way for your Montessori environment to be successful. You can have a mix of things. In the Montessori Way Foundation's workshop, we talked about that. There are 3 different ways that you can approach Montessori, and they are not all the purest and the strictest, and it still works, okay? Number 2, negative number 2, Montessori materials are bulky, which means that they take up a lot of room. Let me know if you agree. If you agree with this one. You need a lot of room in the environment and in storage. Is that right? Unless you have a huge Montessori environment where you are able to have everything set out on the low shelves for children to reach, you're going to need storage to keep some of those materials that the children are either not ready for or that have already been mastered, or you just don't have enough room to put everything out all at once. Maybe you have small spaces to set up your Montessori environment and need to be smart about what you put out. The rest goes into storage. If you know how to organize Montessori materials and rotate them, like I teach in the Montessori Way Foundation's framework, you can come up with a great plan. I have done this for many years and made it work. I have gone through being a Montessori guide at a school where you have everything and anything that you could ever need or imagine, and it's been wonderful and perfect. And then I've gone to where you only have one little small space. And then I started homeschooling my children. We have an entire room dedicated to our Montessori environment. And now that we moved to another house, we have a small area where we don't have an entire room for an environment. We have a small area to set it out, and it works. It's fine. We make it work. The key is storing materials like your practical life supplies in the kitchen or other natural areas like under the sink in the bathroom for the bathroom practical life things and so on. Leave room for the subject materials in storage containers or a closet. As you follow the child's interests by observing and determining their sensitive periods, you will know exactly what will work to set out on the shelves. You don't have to put everything out and you don't have to store everything. Maria Montessori said, the environment must be rich in motives which lend interest to activity and invite the child to conduct his own experiences. Isn't that beautiful? That's a great quote. What do you think about these negatives? They're not as negative as you thought before, huh? Hi, Aman. Good morning. It might be later for you. Let's talk about point number 3 as soon as we come back. Just one.
Thank you for listening to the show. Stay tuned for more. Have you been wondering how to go about doing Montessori successfully or learn more about this wonderful method? Are you lost when it comes to planning Montessori lessons and know how to help children with this wonderful method? Are you constantly doubting yourself, not being sure you're presenting the lessons correctly to a child no matter what subject it is? Are you ready to become a centered, organized Montessori guide and nurture happy, normalized children? What about loving the idea to know how to create smooth, successful Montessori days? Let me introduce you to the Montessori Way Foundations Framework, a 6-month journey to a firm foundation in the Montessori method. Visit us at thenaturalhomeschool.com/TMWFF.
All right. Well, it's sounding a little choppy to me. I don't know how it sounds to you. But let's move on to point number 3. Negative number 3, if that's how you want to see it. Some Montessori materials are breakable or come with small pieces. Raise your hand if that is a concern to you. And that picture on this slide defines it perfectly. You're like, oh, no, these are breakable. I can't possibly give it to children. Well, guess what? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. When I worked at a Montessori school and was in the 2-year-old class, they had everything glass, their cups, their plates, everything was glass. I was so nervous at first when I saw that because I was new to Montessori. I had just finished my Montessori training and I was exposed to the actual Montessori experience firsthand by working there, and it was such an eye-opener. There were so many glass things, so many breakable things with the 2-year-olds. Nothing ever broke. Nothing ever broke. It was so long before something accidentally slipped and fell, and it wasn't even necessarily a child's fault. They just left it near the edge of the table, and when the assistant, the adult, walked by, it fell and it broke. Well, it was a learning experience. It wasn't a negative. It was actually an opportunity for learning and for growth. Why? Because we made it a teachable moment. We made it a teachable moment by getting the broom, the little brush and dustpan. And as a child observed, we brushed all the pieces into the dustpan and taught the child how to clean up broken glass. They were observing, and we were doing a lesson presentation on this practical life work. So, next time, whenever we wanted them to practice the activity, we would tear up pieces of paper and put them on the ground, and they would practice the brushing and putting brushing the pieces onto the dustpan. So it's not necessarily a negative. Yes, it would be a negative if things keep breaking and breaking and breaking. But the bottom line is, if the children don't understand, you keep telling them it's going to break, it's breakable, but they never actually experience what that means, they're not going to really understand what that means. But when they see something broken, they will understand, oh, I do need to be careful. And you know what? It makes children more aware of what they are doing. It forces them to pay attention to what they are doing instead of just carrying something, not thinking about it, and being distracted by something else. They will focus on what they are doing. If they're carrying something breakable, they will be extra careful. I wish I could have videoed those little 2-year-olds. This was so many years ago. It was 15 years ago when I first started my Montessori journey, and it was so precious just how careful they were. You want children to grow up to be kind and caring adults. And if they are able to focus and care for the little things, then they will start caring for the big things. So it's not really a negative. Now, let's talk about the other part of this point. The one is the breakable part, but what about the many small pieces? Some of the pieces can be quite tiny, so they run a risk of getting lost, for one, but more importantly, making it into baby or toddlers' little hands and mouths. They could become choking hazards. That would be a negative, and that would be something that would worry you, right? Does it make you nervous that glass things will break? Yes, it makes us nervous, but we make them a learning experience. Remember a couple of things. One is that we give children a lot less credit than they deserve, and that practice is what will help children. If a child never practices how to give extra care to breakable plates and cups, how will the child learn? And if the item does accidentally break, it can be a learning experience, right? Well, following the child's sensitive periods and learning styles will help you determine what to set out in the Montessori environment. But if you have toddlers, you will know that you won't include the smallest pieces of the pink tower, for example, in your Montessori homeschool daily schedule or in your environment, in the school or the daycare, wherever you might be serving children. At least not until you know that they won't be mouthing those pieces, as they may be choking hazards. You can still make Montessori work, but remember, a day in the life of a toddler is full of adventures. If a toddler wants to explore the pink tower, they won't be knowledgeable enough to apply the entire pink tower lesson anyway. So they don't even need the 10 pieces to begin with. They are still working on their grip, their grasp of the blocks. So you don't need exactly 10 because they probably don't even know to count to 10. They can't follow the original pink tower lesson. So you're in the pre-lesson activity, right? So you can set out 3 to 5 blocks at first, the largest 3 to 5 blocks, and show the toddler how to build the tower in the correct order by size from the largest to the smallest. Add the cubes as a child add more cubes, sorry, as a child masters each stage. So you give them three, the three largest ones, and if they're able to successfully master building the tower from largest to smallest correctly, then add more cubes, maybe to 5 or 6 or 7 until they do get to the 10 pieces. But by that time, the toddler might not be a toddler anymore, or they might not be interested in mouthing the small pieces. So this process might take weeks or months, right? So that's just one example. If you have a Montessori environment with toddlers, then you do want to avoid the small pieces. For example, we have this bead cabinet here for our math. You don't want to have, for example, this one piece set out for them. Do you see it? This one piece set out for them to use. Why? Because they might be able to mouth it, put it in their mouths. It could be a choking hazard. But you can use it when you are present and you are supervising, because as much as we want to give children freedom within limits, safety comes first. So don't see it as a negative, see it as a learning experience. See it as an opportunity. Maria Montessori said, watching a child makes it obvious that the development of his mind comes through his movements. So let them try new things, just keep it safe, and don't see it as a negative. See it as a learning experience. We learn from our mistakes. Where do you want the child to make mistakes? Where they feel safe making them, right? You don't want to just keep bubbling them up into the safety of not trying new things for the fear of something bad happening. We can learn from our mistakes, and that is not a bad thing. There might be things that make you nervous or discourage you about the Montessori method or the way to set up the Montessori environment that is safe and attractive to the children. But you can do it all with the right strategy and with the right plan. Okay? So, what do you think? Is this helpful to you? I want you to overcome those negatives. The negatives will come, but it's the way we handle them that makes all the difference in the world. Are you going to let your child try things? And even if something breaks, it will be a learning experience. Now, I'm not saying give them your grandma's precious china that she left to you. No, I'm not saying to just waste money on these things. You can get pretty inexpensive glass items from Goodwill or thrift stores, consignment stores that are beautiful, but that are not breaking the bank, that are not expensive. Let your children have the opportunity to grow. Have the children have the opportunity to try things, even if they don't go perfectly. They will learn and they will get better. Okay, I want to invite you to get this practical life list, 100 Montessori practical life works. It is 100, a list of 100 activities, ideas that you can do in your home or in the daycare or Montessori school where you work. They are all practical life works. They are 100 of them. I would say don't do each one once. Do each one several times until the children have mastered the activity before moving on to the next one. Have 2 or 3 at the most. Okay? So let me give you the link to download this for free. Let me grab the link and also share it so you can just click on it and get it. It is a free list that you can get. And I think it's going to be very helpful to you. You need to know that practical life is the Montessori subject, very unique, that will shortcut your child's transformation from dependence to independence the fastest. So if you want your child to be normalized, you want your child to be ready for the Montessori environment, then start with practical life. Now, there are things that I have in my shop that go beyond just giving you a list, because this list is the what you can do with the practical life works. This is a list of activities. If you want the actual step-by-step lessons, then there is a step 1 curriculum for practical life works that I have created for the first practical life works that you should implement right away in your Montessori environment. And you can get those at the shop. But right now, what I want you to do is get this list. It will be a great starting point for you. Very helpful, very practical, because obviously they're practical life. It will get your mind jogging in the ideas of things that you can do. Now, I'm not saying that because this list is numbered that you have to follow them in that order. Just look at the list and see which ones work best for you, for the child's age and for the materials that you already have at home and things like that. So just go through the list and pick out the ones that work for you the best. They're listed and numbered, but that doesn't mean that they are in order of priority. You can pick and choose the order that you prefer, okay? All right. Well, I hope that this has helped you. Iman says, can I put the list on a wall and track, or does each child need a folder? No, this list is for you. This is for you with ideas that you can follow along, and you just mark them off as you see that you set them out and that the child has completed them. You could, if you want, print a list for each of the children for you to keep track. This is not a list for the children to have. It's for you to have. And then that way you can keep track really well of which child has mastered what. But you can just easily put the child's name next to the work so they can, so you can know if they have mastered it or not. So what I would do is I would circle the number for that idea so I know that that has been set out on the shelf. And then as they master it, I just write their name next to the activity. So I know that they've mastered it, and I can set something else out. If they really love it, you might want to just keep it on the shelf because they love it. They keep going to it even though they have mastered it. Let them keep working on it if they're interested. All right. Okay, well, this is the end of it. And hopefully it was helpful to you to stop seeing negatives as bad things and start seeing them as possibilities for improvement, for growth, and opportunities for learning. Okay? I will see you next week. Thank you for coming.
I appreciate you sharing time with me today. You have tons of choices about what you're listening to, and I love that you chose the Natural Homeschool Show. Thank you. Well, that's it for today. Until next time, this is Tanya Wright with the Natural Homeschool yourmontessori.com. I hope that you will use this training to create solutions that will bring about smooth, successful days for you. Let's get you closer to that transformation today.